Do your Scrum teams consistently meet the definition of done every sprint? For many Agile teams, the answer is not always. Functional test automation and end-to-end integration testing often lag as late sprint changes shift focus to exploratory testing, manual validation, and releases, pushing automation to the backlog. This leads to growing automation debt, reduced regression coverage, slower release cycles, increased production risks, inconsistent definition of done. What if automation could keep pace with development within the same sprint? Fireflink, an advanced AI-powered no-code platform with a built-in script recorder, enables teams to record intelligent, data-driven test scenarios in real time, generate no-code NLP-based scripts in simple English, generate manual test case, and convert them into automation test scripts using Fireflink generative AI engine. Automate web, Android, iOS, APIs, desktop, databases, and enterprise apps with TV automation, accessibility, and visual testing, all in one platform. Allows validations in natural language, accelerating both functional and end-to-end testing. On a single platform, you can create and execute one automation test script that includes automation test steps like web, Android, iOS, API, database, desktop, TV, accessibility, and more. Achieve definition of done every sprint with Fireflink. Fast embedding, intelligent AI-driven, no-code automation testing platform with more agents. Built your sprint lifecycle without slowing delivery.
Thank you. Guys, I'm just confirming that, we are live now. So good morning, everyone. I can see some of our viewers have also joined now. And first of all, a warm welcome to both of our speakers, Anshuman and Devinder. We are so pleased to have you here. And a huge welcome to our global audience joining us from different parts of the world. I can see we have got close to 300 viewers as we speak. And we appreciate everyone taking some time out. So let me set the context to begin with. In the world of software delivery wherein we all belong to, we have developers who write the code, testers who find the truth, and AI is probably trying to do both faster than all of us combined. And so today's discussion is extremely timely because whether we love it or we fear it or we are still trying to understand it, AI in test automation is no longer the future. It is already the part of our release cycles. And we see this session as the one where even possibly the bugs are getting nervous because their performance is also being reviewed by AI, possibly somewhere in the corner. So without further ado, may I please request our speakers to introduce themselves and we begin the session.
Okay, thanks, Manoj. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Anshuman Swain. I'm leading the test practice at Poundland in the UK. My background has been in QA leadership and transformation across enterprise applications and organizations, and recently in the retail sector. I've got strong focus in test automation, scalable delivery, and operational resilience. In the last couple of years, I have been actively exploring the usage of AI in testing, particularly test automation, but testing in general, and how organizations can balance the innovation with operational resilience and make sure that they both go hand in hand. So that's I'm delighted to be part of today's discussions.
Thank you, Anshuman. Devinder?
Thank you, Manoj, Dilip. Thank you, first of all, for the invitation. Just to introduce myself, I'm Devinder, and I'm head of engineering and quality at MSC Technology, which is based out of Dubai. However, I work from UK, so I'm based out of UK. And I have 2 decades of experience working in, my the journey that I started was with automation, and then getting into development over time, and then into leadership roles over time. And AI, I think, is my favorite topic. Been there for a couple of years now, and we've been using in practice a lot. So it's my honor to share some of the experiences that I've gained over years. And as you rightly said, Manoj, it's very much important that we start embracing AI as soon as possible. If not today, it's very much there, out there, right? If you're not using it, you're not there, out there. So thank you very much for inviting me on
Thank
this.
you, Devendra. Thank you. And with that, Dilip and I will be hosting this session today. And we obviously want to understand your views and want to share this expertise with our audience. And I can see the number is increasing by the time we have around 365 plus viewers as we speak. And with that being said, and before we possibly get into the real topic about AI in test automation, let's possibly quickly look at how the QA teams are dealing with it today. And we can take any industry's example. Both of you have great experience in retail and manufacturing, so we can possibly talk a little bit more about that because everything now is digital. It's connected, and the expectation is to work 24 by 7. Customers want, like one-click shopping, real-time tracking, instant updates. And then, and if you see if an app slows down for like 2 3 seconds, then people react as if the has officially collapsed. Um, and at the same time, businesses want faster releases. Nobody wants any downtime. Everybody wants seamless customer experience, and everything has to be within budget. So QA teams today are not just testing software anymore. They are protecting customer trust. They are bringing business continuity, and sometimes even the peace of mind for all of us over the weekend, because we don't want to you know fixing bugs over the weekend in our leisure time. And with complex ecosystems involving e-commerce, ERP, supply chain, POS systems, cloud platforms, the pressure is has been higher than ever. And therefore, Devinder and Anshuman, I'm sure you both agree that AI has become such an important conversation, not just to automate faster, but to test also smarter. So, possibly, Devinder, if you're okay, let me start with you. In your experience, if you can let us know, how has digital acceleration, especially in the world of e-commerce, omni-channel, supply chain, has changed the expectations for QA?
Yeah, I think you've rightly said, Manoj. If we look at even last 5 years, right? If you look at digital explosion, it's been immense, right? I mean, when COVID started, a lot of platforms actually started switching to digital as much as they can, and then came Chat GPT, which was another thing which all of us came started to explore. Okay, what is this? What is this about? And actually, we started to look at the results which were coming out of there. And you're right. Now, what I believe the transformation I've seen over the years is not just about, it's not just about, for example, you have a website and a user logs into the website. It's just about whether login is successful or not. It's now much more intensive now, where you actually also track what is this user exactly doing, the behavior patterns, the
Yeah,
data events that's being generated, right? The network speed, performance, XYZ thing, which has already been there. But of course, with, if everything is digital, you get into a world where now you have to care about the whole ecosystem, right?
yeah,
Is attached to a platform or a probably a app which is given.
yeah,
So what I see is over time the QA or the quality needs have actually evolved a lot, with this expectations being increasing day by day, right? The real time expectation, as you rightly said, Manoj, whether the things are working within instant or not, right? And of course, the other aspect, if you look at this, the more digitized we've become, the more competition has evolved, right?
yeah, yeah,
And with AI, now the competition becomes much more intense, where Now, a lot of people can actually come up with platforms quite easily, right? Now, now it depends what is the differentiator between you and X, right? And that's where the pressure from the businesses are also growing in a different tangent. And it's very much important. Though that entrepreneur thing, getting into solopreneur world is something which is real now, right? And to be in the competition and to look at the QA impacts is, of course, another thing which I give as an example. Earlier, when I used to give my estimates, right, we used to think about either you can go cheaper, faster, or better. Okay, you can choose to, right, as a client. But now with AI, actually you need to provide all of these three, actually, is what everybody is looking at uh, day to day. And of course, now if we look at the QA expectations, because of this ecosystem which has actually become wider and bigger, the expectations for QA is much more than it used to be. And then comes the world where we have to explore how can we be relevant. That's one thing. What are the tools out there that you can use, and what's the ROI that you will get ultimately, right, which is actually beneficial for the business or not. So these, I think this is where the expectations, as you can see, has significantly increased exponentially, not just linear, but it's exponential. And thank God, AI is there now to help it out. And of course, a lot of businesses are benefiting from it, right? I mean, they're building the solutions as well as they're building more new problems to be sure, right? That so yeah, there are two sides to it, is what I believe.
Just to add what Devendra says, I famously remember that triangle we all know in the testing world. Like, there's a cost, there's a time, and there's a quality on that. We all started like 16 years back, like, whether you need, how you can squeeze the triangle or how you can shape the triangle to get. But over the time, I think it became like, kind of a two component we focus, like, it's cost and time, or time and quality, or quality and cost. But I think AI has, pretty much, reshape that logic, right? I mean, how you can do all three at the same time, which is really good. But again, I mean, with that, obviously the pressure comes, right? I mean, we, people on the ground, they know like how to do that, but there is always a limitation, and there is always a guardrail that we need to apply. But again, the pressure is always there from other people when they say that everything can be done. That let's just do that, straight away. So absolutely, yeah.
Thanks, Devendra. Thanks, Anshuman. I think you touched that point, Anshuman. I mean, with every organization intend to be ahead in the AI curve, what pressures are coming from business teams, especially on the QA team?
I mean, I'm currently in retail background, right? I mean, different domains obviously differs, but I think in retail we all know that there's always a high speed kind of a release, and it's always a fast paced environment. I think the pressures are generally coming from speed, stability, and probably customer experience, and not at a time, probably all at the same time. That's what you generally get. I mean, talking about my company, business always wants faster release, right? Because the customer expectations and the market dynamics change very frequently in the world of retail, right? And then at the same time, retailers, I can talk about, my company, or generally the budget retailers, they really operate on a very thin margin, right? So if you're talking about, any downtime or any defect in production, that basically directly means it's a lost revenue, right? Where the margin is really, really thin, you can't really afford to have a downtime or defects in production. And I think the other pressure in the retail business, mainly, that the pressure is around the seasonal readiness, right? Yes, the retail operate 24/7, kind of 365 days a year, but obviously there is always peaks. And in UK, and in particular, the peaks are around Halloween, Christmas, and Easter. But November, December is pretty much the peak time, where it starts with Halloween, and I mean, these days Black Fridays and all. I mean, it's not just about speed, right? It's like confidence at speed, right? No, I've seen business stakeholders coming and asking me basically that, can you guarantee that this release is not going to break our Christmas experience, right? If you look at that particular question, That's fundamentally different to what traditional testing is, right? Traditional testing is about you finish the testing, you send the sign off report. But here is about the trust. Here is about the credibility and the confidence. So these are probably the main challenges we generally get from business.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to add on this, Dilip, I mean, there's another thing which is from the QA side where I was saying the things have gone exponential or have multiplied over time.
Okay.
Now, if you look at complete ecosystem, right? The source where the architectural things happen, the speed has to be everywhere. And when your source, if you look at the SDLC, somebody is designing the architecture. Now that person or XYZ process happens very quickly. Now, these processes, which are on the left side of the quality, where solution, development, design, all this are happening at a faster speed, there's high chances things can fall apart, right? And that's where it adds much more pressure on the QA, being the last quality gate, where things have to flow to release. And that's where the question comes, right? Are you confident that the release will be 100%? And, sometimes it's very hard to answer also practically, because you're sometimes, if you are in a place where your processes are in a way that they are not you don't have the insights of what's happening on the other side of the QA world, then you are stuck. I mean, then you do that blind testing, or you're not
Yeah.
sure about testing,
Mm.
or there is a process where quality, not everybody thinks about the quality, but it's the quality team who has to think about quality. So those are fundamental things, I think, which are also important overall. And as a business, it's very much important, if you're on the quality side, to actually rip apart all the processes and see how processes and people are working together to make
Okay.
sure the quality is in the whole ecosystem, right? In the whole span of SDLC, rather than just one place. That's
Yeah.
important.
Thanks, Devendra. Thanks, Anshuman. Good insight on that one. Moving on to the next topic, that is our main topic today, that AI in test automation. So we all know that AI is definitely already transforming how your QA teams complete their task. Okay, so we will continue to expand with the growth of AI agents and the agentic testing. We are also witnessing, especially in the test automation, that a lot of tasks getting automated and stuff like that. Maybe Devendra, for you actually, in your experience, where AI is actually adding value, is it with the test case generation, or self-healing of scripts, or predictive defect analysis, or regression optimization, or anything else? Actually, what is in your experience where actually AI is adding the value?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of places where AI is definitely adding value. I'll go a little bit back. Okay, how actually, if I look at just the STLC, how it has evolved over time. So just couple of weeks back, I was basically creating that STLC diagram, and I wanted to see how how the AI is going to change the landscape and how it looked like. So when I go through the STLC, and I just, I'll just talk about development, testing, and release, right? Where you are doing the development, and during development, we are writing unit tests, integration tests, for example, to make sure the left side or the initial development is actually quality. Uh, and then you move into the quality world where actually the testers or the QA people are writing the test cases, uh, making sure they're meeting all the acceptance criteria, coming up with all the edge cases that are needed, looking at the designs, thinking about all the user journeys that are important. What are those UI UX elements? What are those APIs which we need to test? So this test plan, so starting with test strategy, test plan, test cases, this is where I think over time the AI has played a very important role. Where if I look at the documentation world, right, the documentation has become really easy nowadays. You just feed into your AI system and it generates whatever you need or whatever you prompt for. But it also has a lot of ill sides to it. It's like garbage in is garbage out.
Yeah.
Somebody really bad, if it's operating with that tool, can really frustrate you on the other side. So what I mean is a QA, doesn't know what to do, can actually it's like you've given a tool in wrong hands. That also can happen. But in our space, like some of the things which we've started, is like creating agents for some of the aspects which can be automated by AI agents. And what I've seen over time is the human review is super important, and that will not go away, right? Even if the AI is generating documents, that doesn't mean you get into that cognitive blind spot and say, okay, yeah, everything might be perfect, right? So what we've again, to quote an example, right? How we do is basically we've started creating agents, AI agents, which would take the inputs from the designs, like for the Figma designs of the user journeys, the context from your existing test cases, and what is the what are the new user journeys we are going to build, like acceptance criterias or the requirements, whatever it is, or the solution blueprint that's out there. And then what you basically feed into this AI and make sure it has the right context, and it generates the test plan for you. And that test plan is the first touch point where a QA reviews the test plan and sees, okay, has it covered everything? Now, even if you look at the test plan, right, now another important thing which I was talking about, garbage in garbage out, is also important, where in your specifications or what you need as an output is templatized. For
Yeah.
example, when a normal QA creates any test cases, they think about positive, negative, edge cases, what will happen for performance, how will it visually look, what will happen with the APIs, what sort of APIs are going to be there, will I test with this network speed, what about security aspects, right? Where are they? Accessibility is another important thing which you have to test there and then. Accessibility again in the e-commerce world can be really punitive to you if suppose special users are not able to use your app, or not able to use your website or able to do transactions. It can be heavy fines if they decide to actually penalize you, right? So these kind of things are very much important and critical. And what cannot happen is when AI comes into picture, these kind of things are left out. So that human review aspect is very much important, and that's what we've put in, where the humans review the test plan. That's the first gate. And then after we've reviewed the test plan, then it generates the test cases looking at the existing test cases that are out there. So for example, if you're using any tool for test case management, it will look at the whole context of what test cases we have, and then generate the test cases accordingly and create a test plan in the test case management system, right? Whatever we are using. And then we've gone a little bit far also. Fortunately, we use Fireflink, okay, which is your tool as well. And I've seen over time, because we started using Fireflink from last 2 years, okay, and I've seen that growth, because earlier when we started with Fireflink tool, we were trying to solve a problem where we wanted to automate a Flutter app running on web, which is not easy to automate if you look at the automation, right? And with the AI help, where it was able to detect the images and actually convert it into text, that's where actually I got introduced to Fireflink, and I was able to use Fireflink for that part itself. And then over time, what we've seen is, which is really great, which is helping us a lot, because we use two things at the moment. One is WebDriver IO, which is an open source platform for automating basically apps. And within our apps, we also have the web part of it. Some of the screens are web, some of the screens are native, and some of the screens are even Flutter based. So with Fireflink, I've seen that growth, where the biggest advantage I've seen over time, what we get with Fireflink out of the box, is you cover all the aspects of functional, negative, UI, accessibility. That's covered in, just complete one aspect. Earlier, otherwise, what we used to do was we used to have different platforms where you use WebDriver IO, for example, for functional or UI automation. You will use different plugins to do like visual automation. But for accessibility, we used to use, for example, DQ tool, right? You will integrate with DQ tool, another tool, talk to that tool, make sure you're automating it, and then you use that full fledged. Uh, that's another thing which I've seen over time, where these kind of solutions are really helping us out, and helping us out in a way that it's giving the ROI back, right? Now, from my perspective, what's most important, right? Whatever you do, the importance is the ROI. What is the return on investment? If you're just playing with it, if it's doing something, so what? Does it give you value back? That's the most important thing. So test case generation, as I see, has been, I think is the much more valuable thing. Another thing which my team used to waste time on is the, say for example, some in the development world, we are running native applications, we've automated it, and we are running them day to day, right? Now, some of the audience whom I can't see right now might agree with me. If they're doing mobile automation, it's not straightforward a lot of times. Okay, it's very much difficult to automate the native apps, or or handle or maintain the native apps if they are not developed in right way. Now of course on the development side, the locators can change, the things can happen, and that's where the QAs used to basically spend a lot of time in fixing. Okay, X locator is now changed, now let's change the locator again. This is a maintenance time, right? You're spending time on. So I think that self-healing part, which Dilip, you were saying about, I think I totally agree. I see that return on investment, right? That self-healing part from the tool actually helps straight away. I would say 30 to 40%, but there is a ill side also, right? Again, the cognitive blind. So if something is self-healing, it's not 100% that it's healing the right thing. It might happen that it's also trying to heal a defect or cover up a defect. Okay. So that's also we've seen over time, where if you're not reviewing what sort of self-healing is happening, you're not actually reviewing those aspects, things can go wrong and it gets pushed to your code base, and then it keeps running like that with that bug. Okay, so I've seen one or two instances like that can happen. So it's very much important we keep our eyes open and we review whatever happens, right? In the old world, if I go, when self healing was not there, usual case, what used to happen was things will break in automation. The automation tester or the QA will review, okay, what's the reason it's broken? Okay, yes, now the locator has changed. Let me manually change the locator. And then, you'll push the change to your GitHub repository or wherever you're maintaining your automation. And now what happens is the self healing happens where the script automatically gets fixed, right, with you. And that's where it's an important thing where you actually review. Actually, is it just that part which has changed, or what are those things which have changed, right? So that review part is very much important, I think. And another thing which I've seen, where I very much like, how we are using AI is the predictive analysis, right? What are those predictions? Where are those loopholes? Where, for example, automation is going down. Why are we maintaining automation all the time? What are those quality areas which we have to address on the development side, which should be fixed there and then? And I think the fourth thing, which is very much important, which I've seen with Firefly tool, which has helped us a lot, is around testing the ecosystem. Because sometimes when you are just looking at the native apps, yes, you can test the native apps, but what about a downloaded PDF file? How do you test it? For example, how about something from the desktop which you can test it? How about the integrations over time, which are running on a totally different ecosystem, where you have to come out of your script, upload or download something, do something else on your computer to test it automatically. That sort of aspects is something I think which has changed the landscape totally, which saves a lot of time, by the way, if we get it right. And the fifth thing, which I believe, Dilip, is actually making the QAs lazy also, is the scriptless coding, right? You don't have now, we are in the world where you don't even have to think about scripts, right? Just it's like you're recording and playing, right? Now if you use it in the right way, great, it gets you in the right place. But if you use it in a way where it's not repetitive, or it's understandable by someone else, then probably you're building something which is going to become a disaster. So even if we look at the scriptless coding, I think it's very much important that we think about how it will be used by someone else. So that part never goes away. So I think that's been my experience around how things are working.
Thanks, Devendra. Good insight again, and I think what you mentioned, the human in the loop, is very important, key in how we go ahead with implementing the AI. The next question maybe for you, Anshuman. I mean, we are all adopting the AI in key projects. I mean, we are all learning from those experience. I mean, from your experience so far, what didn't work actually in the AI implementation?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, I've been exploring AI in the world of testing for the last couple of years, right? So, I mean, initial days, purely from my experience, I think the one thing probably that didn't work initially, and that shouldn't have actually worked, but we didn't realize is we try to apply AI to everywhere, right? You're a company, you get excited, right? And here's the AI, that's going to change everything is a magic wand, and we just started to apply everywhere. Yeah, so I think it's important to be realistic here, right? I mean, there's a lot of hype around AI in testing mainly. So that was the one thing that don't apply everywhere, or at least that didn't work for us, rightly so, because we didn't have a proper clear use case, right? Where to apply it and all that. So I think the other challenge is. The expectation that time, again, as I said, the magic wand was AI is what's going to magically reduce the maintenance overhead, right? Because that is one of the kind of a burden or a tag that you get with automation, right? It's the maintenance. It's not about automation like whether Devendra mentioned WebDriver IO. We do that in our organization as well. You always have that maintenance aspect of it, right? You always think, is that adding value? That's more of a burden, right? And with AI, you think that that's going to solve the maintenance overhead, and I think that is something that we kind of learned when we did. It's not really going to reduce that. It will, but provided there's a lot of ifs and there's a lot of prerequisites we need, right? For example, if your application is not stable, right, or if it's poorly designed, it's not properly thought through, or your data quality is weak, you don't have you have flaky data and all that. So applying AI there is probably going to aggravate the problem rather than solving it. Right? So that was another challenge, which kind of from previous experience basically. So I think it's the biggest lesson probably is that AI works best when we are trying to augment it with experienced testers, right? Not when it tries to replace the testing fundamentals. So that probably works best. And then I think as I said, all these poorly designed systems or the data or the quality of the data as such. So a bad process with AI is a bad process, right? It just amplifies it and make it move faster and manifest all this issue more quickly if you apply AI to a bad process. So I think these are pretty much some of the key takeaways, basically the things that didn't work in the past when you apply AI blindly without giving it a thorough kind of consideration.
Yeah, I think absolutely I agree, Anshuman. And the other bit is that all the organizations have obviously evolved over the years, right? We have legacy systems. Some organizations have a legacy ERP, legacy POS system, a warehouse system, supply chain, etc., etc. And we have been speaking to many of our customers, and many of our customers say that they actually work quite perfectly as well. However, then you get someone comes and says that, hey, let's modernize it now. Modernization, it looks quite modern, but it comes with its own chaotic challenges. And the challenge for QA, I think, is to look at how do we balance the innovation with stability eventually, because businesses also have peak seasons, right? Whether it is holiday sales, Black Friday, a small issue can cause a major business problem, a major business loss on a day, which actually matters quite a lot. So, Anshuman, let me also possibly ask you this, that how do you think, we should introduce AI without destabilizing the legacy which exists in the organizations?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about all the different components of legacy systems, right? I mean, in retail, because that's where I'm currently kind of involved in. I mean, every organization, every domain has got their own legacy system, and they're in the journey of modernization. Modernization doesn't happen overnight, right? So, I mean, if you talk about the retail again, I think we have got the legacy systems are deeply interconnected, right? Be it EPOS, the POS systems, the ERP, the warehousing. the loyalty engine, the pricing model, all these discounted pricing models and all that. So if we don't, take care in applying AI, then I think we are risking it, risking kind of destabilizing stabilizing the actual production systems, right? So I think the approach I would probably say is always, when you talk about applying AI to the legacy systems, or big enterprise system with legacy application in there, I think I would probably say the approach should be always start small and start with the low risk areas rather than straight away jumping into the core applications where like your heart of your kind of execution lives there, right? So I think we start there, and then I would say like every AI power tool that whatever the we are using, we need to make sure that all the AI assisted tools, the outcome that it gives, they're like measurable and traceable, and we can review, and that's by QA team. Just because the AI tool has given something, we should not blindly trust that, right? And I think that is what it should be, the kind of approach that we take mainly when the legacy system involves. And I think we need to focus on the peripheral aspect of it, right? Rather than going like in the API, the integrations. And we can, I mentioned about the kind of low risk areas. Just to give an example of a low risk areas is we can always do like, before the release, we can look at the regression pack, which can maybe contains thousands of test cases, right? To see how we can optimize. These are the scope, these are the 20 requirement, and know how we can optimize the regression rather than running 1,000 test cases over 7 days. If you can optimize them a smart optimization, we can probably run about 15 or 20, right? Or let's say 70 or 80 test cases, like fraction of test cases, which are well targeted, covers all the change area rather than doing everything, right? These are the things we can do. We can do smart test prioritization, right? We can do predictive defect analysis. I talked about the peak seasons, right? When you go there, I think it is about like when you go into November, kind of a Halloween and Christmas kind of thing. We can look at the defect, the past defect kind of a trend, right? What are the issues that we have had, in the last few years? Because we have seen like generally what one of the things that we do in the retail, I mean all of the guys like who are there, all our audience, we all use self checkout, right? When you go to self checkout, we always see like during Christmas time, there's a separate voice that plays, like the Santa voice and then all these things, right? There's just an example. When you apply those voices to the self checkout, it's just a voice a file, but there's so many things go behind the scene just to make sure that every single user journey is mapped to a new voice, kind of thing. So all those things again, we can probably take a small subset and try to use that as a small scale rather than directly applying to the production. So I think the key thing here is probably we don't want to modernize the legacy overnight, right? We just do it progressively and slowly, and starting with a low risk area, and then we scale wide and big.
Yeah, thanks, Anshuman. Devender, I mean, you know that quality assurance team used to be sort of gatekeeper in terms of release going out, actually. So how can we continue to ensure the governance and risk controls are in place, even with AI started adopting in the project, actually?
Yeah, thank you, Dilip. Interesting question, right? And if I go back to what Anshuman was also saying, right? Actually, the previous question about destabilizing legacy. Now, if we think about legacy systems, what's important in what is legacy system about? The legacy system probably is a system running from ages. Probably some ex-employees were working on it who did something with X reasons, and then the new team is not even aware what's happened, right? These are usual cases that happen, right? With legacy systems, what happens is what we are mostly worried about is the unknowns and the risk it can get us into, right? And that risk is actually directly proportional to how your quality standards are, right? If your quality standards are really high, your right side of the quality is really strong, that will actually safeguard a lot of things getting into the legacy systems as a defects. So how I see this is, again, it comes to Dilip, now your thing, where what are those matrix, right, which are important for us to think about. Now if I think about the AI use cases, right, now when we started introducing, again we started introducing step by step. Let's go from the right side. If I have this end-to-end user journeys, can we automate it? And can we fast automate with AI? And can we use AI for the right places? For example, self-healing, that sort of aspects, which can give us value. That's one thing. Now, one thing we did see, because we use tools and we use also agentic AIs, where we have built our own agents to do some things. Now, with the agentic AIs, which we've built ourselves on top of the tools that we are using, has, say, for example, 70 to 80% accuracy. Now, if you see 20% to 30% is again human in loop. You cannot 100% rely on the AI solution wherever you're applying to it. And when you see the compound effects, so if you got into a world where a manager said, guys, go and make this legacy system future perfect with, this is your AI tool, I'm getting rid of 50% of QA team, and now I apply, use AI as a tool to embrace quality. I don't think that's realistic, right? Because if I look at AI, it's multiplication of something, right? It helps you to do and get the speed what you want, but again, that human aspect doesn't go away, and that's where the ROIs, some of the frameworks that we've been using, like can we measure like test maintenance time, for example? So for example, when we used to get the designs and requirements, it used to take us 2 to 3 days to devise test cases and test plan in normal circumstances, but now it takes 2 to 3 hours. And then rest of it is the human review, which is very much important, right? So you can say there is a shift of 2 days per QA, which is a big thing, right? So that's, I think, the biggest one. And then it starts going into automation, the regression test cycle, how it's reducing day by day. Again, defect escape rate is another one which can be there. However, it's very hard to say, because another examples I'm realistically seeing is where now people are, with AI adoption, people are also focusing more on adopting AI than consumer journeys. Okay, so the focus is shifting. If you'll see clearly, now some of the members focus on how can I make this AI work rather than how can I make this app work for the consumers, which is very much important. That's what we are paid for, right? That's the important thing. How you can leverage AI to bring you that aspect of consumer journey is the important aspect. But I can see that shift where we are getting into, the most of the time spent is on making the AI perfect, right? That's another unfortunate reality, and that's where we have to be careful about. And I think the other part which I've seen, if I look at the ROI framework, is very much important on the spend. What sort of tool are you using, and what's the value it's returning you back, right? If you're creating your own agentic AIs, are you using Claude? You're using Claude, the tokens. If you start using tokens in ineffective way, you'll see the tokens, fly off like anything, and you get no results. So those sort of things are very much important, I think. What's the spend overall, and yeah, what's the ROI there? And another thing which I feel, which is changing with agentic AI landscape, is the adoption depth, right? For example, it's like you and me, Dilip, working on testing the same thing. Now,
Yeah.
human wise, you might take different time, I might take different time, right, to execute something. But with the agentic AI world, you can see consistent results over
Yeah.
time. But on the other flip side, it can generate results, and I might get into a loop of just making it correct again and again and again. That's another negative thing. Where now, what makes difficult for me in the AI world is to estimate something with 100%. Like if you'll ask me, Dave, how much time will it take to test this? Now, if I'm using AI tool, I might be in that dilemma. How much time should I give? So that sort of things are also there.
Yeah.
But I think with more confidence levels increasing with AI tools, this will fade away over time, I
Okay.
believe. But it's
Yeah.
still there.
Thanks, Devendra. Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, with AI helping with the code generation for developers and also many testing tasks, including test creation, script generation, documenting the exploratory testing, everything is done through the agents. probably the which will enable us to release the software at speed as well, actually. So going forward, we might be able to release the software at a very high speed. However, a fast pipeline that silently misses defects is worse than a slower trusted one. So in terms of speed versus reliability, where do we draw the line? Maybe if one for you, Anshuman. Should the QA should use the authority to slow down a release when needed?
Just to answer the question, I think should QA slow down the release, because that's always generally being asked, right? I think it's yes. You can say absolutely it should. When there is business risk involved in there, then we should definitely slow down the release. QA should not be seen as a blocker for the sake of it, right? QA is very much part of the project team, or stakeholders in the success of the project or the program, right?
Yeah.
QA should not be seen as a blocker, but I think it should probably be seen as an enabler, and more of a protector, and giving the business confidence as an insurance kind of a thing, that we are sure enough that this problem will not happen in production, right? So wherever there is risk involved, I think even if there is a small risk involved, I think it's probably, in my opinion and from experience, it's always better to go a little slow and go to market a little late than releasing something prematurely, and then the chaos unfolds, and the cost of, we all know, the cost of fixing something in production is far greater than fixing it beforehand, or probably slowing it a little bit down and just releasing with the full confidence. So I think that's the key thing here, really.
Yeah, thanks, Anshuman. Devendra, I mean, we all heard about shift left in the last couple of years. Is shift left enough in the AI world?
Good question. I think now the definition, it's my personal experience. Okay. I would say yes, definitely shift left when you're building something. As soon as you can find things, it's much more cost effective, right? To
Yeah.
fix things. The faster or the early we can detect something, of course, it's preventing something to happen, right? So it's much more cheaper in that sense. But if we say, is that enough? I doubt it. It's not enough. Because realistically, what I've seen is, you can be lean on one side, right? Either left or right. Okay. And in reality, say, for example, we have a Tesco app, right? Used by millions of customers. Now, these consumers are behaving with, I don't know how many exponential ways, right? And to test every permutation and combination is not realistic, will never be realistic ever, right? And that's where the observability plays an important role, right? Monitoring. So imagine this way, where if I'm testing something, I test something with the business risk as much as possible, and then leave rest of the things on observability. That's where I can probably release some things faster. But again, it depends on the business context, how much risk you can take. Like in banking application, you cannot take that risk that millions of pounds get into someone's wallet, and then you realize, oh, there is a defect, and then we fix it. So it depends on the business case. So and that's where our the planning of the quality end to end is very much important. And that's where we cannot just say, okay, concentrate on shift left. We have to think about shift right as well. And then it's a continuous cycle, because now AI is touching every part of your SDLC. Let's be very thoughtful, right? And who is that person who thinks about quality day in and day out? Is the QAs all the time, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if we say development team, from now on, QA is everyone's responsibility. I don't think that message flies practically, right? Ever. And that's where how I see is the quality in every zone, every aspect, every touch point has become very critical now. The AI dependency is high, where people are now moving into that world, where people are getting into that blind. And that's where I see the focus of, as Anshuman rightly said, the enablement from the QA side, right, is very much important. The QA person thinking about quality can enable much more things. And that's where, even in the news or in any podcast, you would hear this thing where a lot of people are saying development has become, or the programming has become a commodity now. It's like everybody can do it, right? But
Yeah.
what's the differentiator you will bring into the business is very much
Yeah.
important. as a quality person, do you think about these sort of things? That sort of differentiating aspect will bring the turn into how we think today. And going back to your question, Dilip, I think the QA role, is evolving around everything now. It's not just left, right, and continuous, and it's the whole ecosystem. And you keep iterating on how things are getting better. As I said, if a AI model or if a AI output or if a AI assisted workflow is giving you 80%, say, good case or results, that means if you look at the compound effects, if your SDLC has 5 phases and you're getting 80% each stage, that also means, somewhere there is, a big gap which is compounding over time and you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what happens when there is a defect? Guess what? Who is the first person asked a question? Quality. How did you miss this defect? And then, unfortunately, we are also in a world where people will not be able to point out, oh, no, no, that AI workflow actually led to this bug. And I was blind, that won't go away, right? So that's why it's very much important now. QA applies everywhere. And if you are a QA working in one place, keep your eyes open, I would say, and get into every aspect of what's happening around. Because I think that's our that's our forte, and we should exercise it as much as possible. Is what I believe.
I think just to add to what Devendra said, like about the shift right, right? I mean, shift right. Generally, the question is always being asked, like, shift left versus shift right, not versus. I think shift left is always the key. We all know that now. I think we have all matured. Like, we all know that shift. The more left we go, the testing involved in beginning of the kind of requirement phase or kind of feasibility analysis kind of study, it's good. But I think shift right is also AI, yes, but in general in testing as well, shift right is always useful, right? I mean, for example, if you have got something, I mean, these days there's always incremental releases, right? If we are talking about like releasing an app to production, right? And we know that in the 6 months time that we're going to be version 2, version 3. Shift right can be quite beneficial. Like we do all our testing. For example, shift left, we do everything. We don't leave anything like kind of shortcuts. We release it. I think the important thing is when it's production, that is what shift right is, right? When it is in production, there is nothing stopping us from monitoring it. We can't do it directly, but there's nothing stopping us from monitoring. So that is where the QA comes in as well. When the product is actually in production, you monitor the behavior, the pattern, any issues, any slowness, for example, non-functional issues and all that. And you take that account into the next release, which is again your shift left kind of thing. So the cycle, you're joining the loop, and the cycle basically continues there. So I think, yeah, so shift right is very much part of like, it's a smart QA kind of strategy. Shift right should always be an integrational part of it.
Surely. I think thank you, Anshuman, and thank you, Devendra. I think, while we were so much engrossed in discussing on this topic, there were, star number of questions which have actually come to our foray. And we can only pick up few given the time we all have. But all the questions are answered by the team who were helping us organize this session. But there were some interesting questions which possibly you can ask to the speakers. So one question is right there on the screen for you, Anshuman, which is how should organizations start their AI testing journey without disrupting the existing process? If you could please throw some light on it.
Yeah, sure. I think we've kind of briefly covered that one. I think the key thing here is I'm not sure the question you were talking the existing process. I mean, is it AI in not automation? I guess AI can be applied in automation and in manual testing, right? If I just quickly talk on manual testing, for example, we always before adopting AI, every organization has some form of testing maturity, right? Whether they're fully mature or they're not really that mature. So I think the key thing is we are not really, I think the key thing is to adopt AI and apply it as a supplementary, to your test. Don't just replace from day one, like, here is the AI and all the manual test is gone and do it. I think that is what is probably the key thing here is you have a set of manual test cases, then know that, and then you put, your use cases through the AI powered tool or the AI tool, and that generates something. I think the initial few kind of assessment should be just to compare what the person has written versus what the system is writing, right? And that is where you can fine-tune the tool actually, just to do it like, because that is where the critical thinking comes in, right? No matter what the UI does, the critical thinking and the human judgment, mainly from the QA, that's probably the key thing here. And same thing for automation. When you're doing automation, if tomorrow, for example, we are adopting, or anybody adopting Firefly, it's well and good, but then don't just from day one, don't just put your existing automation framework, whatever capability you put to the bin, right? Just take Firefly or any automation tool as a kind of a supplement, right? And just see that what is generating, where the gaps are. There is always going to be blind spot. It's not a tool's limitation as such. It is just that joining the dots between the tools and the business domain, right? No matter what the tool will do, it can never understand the business context and the risk. So I think that is what we just need to do it, and that's how we slowly kind of do it without disrupting the actual existing landscape completely. That helps.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and quite interesting perspective. And I think next question is possibly for Devender. If you can please answer, wherein can AI help identify gaps in test coverage automatically?
Right. Oh, interesting question. Yes. Answer is no to start with. And I'll tell you no why. So imagine I am human now and I'm walking to a place, right, which is 10 kilometers from here. Now that's my organic way, that's my tested way of traveling my STLC path. Now comes a car, right, which is cost, which is like if you imagine car is a AI and it's token based AI. The more you use, the fuel you'll burn, right? Now if you ask that car, or if you ask that car in the right way to to drive you to the right place in the right with the right path, shortest path, longest path, whatever you give it, that's the results you will get, right? So I won't say AI has a magic bullet of getting the test coverage or the gaps in the coverage. You have to steer it in a way that and of course eventually when you keep training it over time with your own context, how I see this is the AI is your intern, and it has to onboard, it has to go through that onboarding journey from left to right. So, and once you've done that training with your AI agents, whatever you're using in the context, then over time, yes, the answer becomes yes. But from no to yes, there is a journey that you have to take it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Devendra. And Anshuman, if you can possibly pick up the next question on the screen, which basically says whether the demand for test automation engineer will decrease as developers are taking responsibilities. And that's kind of, this is a question which is asked by so many people on the call today.
I think, yeah, no, I think the answer is probably no. I see test engineer as a test engineer. I mean, I don't differentiate between automation and kind of manual. I mean, probably that differentiation is probably more blurred now, given the age of AI. That you don't need to know the code. You don't need to write the code to become a test engineer, right? You can just put in ChatGPT or Claude code, just write a Python code to do this, and it will just write it. I think the key thing here is the automation test engineer role is not going to decrease. I think it's more around depending on, obviously there are a few tools which will help you, doing the no code automation. But I think there is always some aspect will be there where, when you talk about the large scale application, there is always going to be some integration point, right? Some API calls, some integration points, you just need to make sure that, the things work seamlessly and all that. So the answer is no, but at the same time, if we continue to do, or automation engineer continue to do what they're doing for the last few years over in the future, I don't think that's going to work. We all have to evolve, as Devendra said. We all have to evolve with the new aspect, right? Use AI as a co-pilot, we say, or what Devendra said, as an intern, right? Use that to leverage what you need. Rather than sitting 8 hours and writing the code like a developer, as an automation engineer, you can actually get the code and you can do the critical thinking. You can identify the risk. I have seen in the team where the functional testing take that responsibility to think about the risks, and the test automation engineer basically act as a pseudo, kind of a developer, right? They just see what needs to be done. They never think about why you're doing this. What about this edge case? That's always. I think now it's a role of automation engineer to become more like a hybrid where they can assume a lot of responsibility, and that line between the manual and automation is basically blurred. We all call about, rather than test, we all call about the quality engineering, right? This is what the quality engineering is heading with in the age of AI.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think I agree with Anshuman, because if you look at traditional way, right, developers always had that ability to become testers, but did they become? No, right? So I would see it other way around, right? Where if a automation engineer decides that they want to take up development, they will be able to. So it's the other way around, I would think, because
Yeah.
QAs usually have the 360 mindset, right? You know the system in and out, but the
Yeah.
developers sometimes have the focused, narrow mindset, right? It's not for everyone, so please, don't take it like that. But then it builds more opportunity, right? That's there.
So, thank you both for your time and a wonderful insight into AI. I think I'm pretty sure that all our viewers enjoyed the insight and the practical experience, what you all shared with all of them. Actually, I mean, just one last takeaway, maybe. I mean, if you want to give one practical recommendation and maybe probably one caution in AI with respect to QA, maybe I'll start with you, Devendra. What you want to give it to our audience today?
One practical recommendation, yeah, what I would say is invest in learning AI. Definitely, how you can use yourself or empower yourself to actually use it in a right way, that it gives you the output which is more probabilistic, which is more deterministic, sorry, I would say this. And if I have to say caution there, of course, remember AI is probabilistic, right? It's not determined, it will not give you 100% all the time. It's just like a manager who doesn't give you right answer straight away, right? So you have to build that context to make sure you get the right answer and the right value out of it, and don't get blind to it. That's the biggest risk, right? So I see that practically happening, and especially with the people who come at the entry level. Yes, AI is anything, I can do anything with the AI tool, and that's where things can go wrong, especially in the enterprise grade applications or websites, right? It's very much important. Entry level website, entry level apps, easy to make, but to make them enterprise level, it's a different game out there. You
Yeah.
need experience, you need domain expertise for that. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, thanks, Devendra. Anything from you, Anshuman, quickly?
Yeah, I would probably just say, like, I mean, I know there's a lot of noise around AI, right? I mean, sometimes it just makes bit nervous and kind of anxious, right? I mean, all that happening. I would probably say, like, I mean, somebody looking to, like, just to start, like, some testers start getting into looking to get into I would say, like, just starts with something simple, like, learn the AI, like, concepts and all the things. That's good. But then in your organization, don't wait for your manager or your organization to give you an AI testing strategy or anything like that, right? I mean, the internet is wide open and you can do it. I think the key thing is if you're really going to apply the AI into your organization kind of thing, start learning, do it something where the QA team are genuinely struggling today. If you just ask the question where the QA team is struggling, they're struggling with the regression optimization, right? The regression test is very easy to add the regression, but then over a time just goes like beyond the kind of control, right? Use AI for the regression optimization, the flaky test data, how you can generate more controlled and more meaningful test data and maintainable test data, and the defect triaging, right? If you give the tag to the defect, the next time the defect, it can classify those defects. So use AI there, all the easy and the simpler part, and then we can always scale big. So that would probably be my kind of practical recommendation to start. And caution is, again, I think we've kind of covered it. I mean, don't let AI take the driver's seat, I would probably say. I mean, AI, treat that AI as always your assistant or intern, whatever the Devendra said. And remember, AI is, blind trust is probably the biggest risk, right? Blind trust in AI or AI power tool and outcome. I think that is probably going to create more problem than it solves, basically, on there. So always use AI as an kind of enabler to augment the existing testing capability that you have. And remember, no matter how much the AI tool or any AI process evolves, end of the day, the critical thinking and the human judgment, I think that's become the key, and that will hold always. That's always the priority over everything else. So make sure that your domain knowledge and your expertise and domain knowledge and the risk analysis factor, all that there, and just try to layer the AI on top of all those. That would probably be my recommendations to the guys.
Yeah, thanks, Anshuman. A very good insight, good suggestion for the team, actually. I mean, thank you both for taking your time. I know you both are very busy with your day-to-day activities and managing the teams. I believe that taking your time and giving the insight for close to around 400 viewers at the peak was very, very grateful. And thank you so much for that one. I'm sure that we'll continue to have this kind of chats where we can spread the knowledge for the community and continue to share what's happening in the AI, especially in the automation. That's the topic we care a lot about. And I'm sure that we'll continue to discuss and probably will have you again on the panel one more time. Thanks for your time and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Thanks for
Anshuman.
our
Thank
audience.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all the viewers as well.
Thank you, everyone. Whom
Thank
we
you.
can't see. So thank you. Yes.
I'll just end the stream. Thank you.